Hi. By this point, you're probably aware, if you were planning on coming to church, that church has been canceled. But the snow posse is coming soon, and Lee is here, and she brought her camera, so we thought we would give a crack at giving you the sermon anyway, if you want it. Now, were you in church today, you would have heard me sing, and we would have sung together In the Bleak Midwinter. I would have played it on the ukulele, because it's more subversive that way to play it on the ukulele, and it's a winter song. But we didn't, because church is canceled. But my reading to start is that, and so I will start with that quote that I think most of you probably know. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan, earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan, earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. Now that's something we know about midwinter. Yesterday, in fact, I was walking around Boston between Wheelock College and the MFA when I was momentarily distracted by a long line of dump trucks going by filled with snow. And then, because I wasn't looking where I was going, I slipped on the ice. It's been that kind of week for many of us. It's been difficult to get around. In fact, sometimes it seems like I can't remember a day that didn't involve shoveling. Life during an extreme weather event such as this gets broken down into smaller bits, and we find ourselves living in the now, but not necessarily in very pleasant ways. For example, trying to keep our balance or sliding along the road only in dim control of our automobiles. I cannot count how many accidents I have almost been in this week. And that's the way for all of us. As we count down the days, ultimately to spring, but perhaps at least to February vacation, wishing that we thought to make reservations somewhere warm, or at least somewhere with a hot tub. Now, tradition tells us that Jesus wasn't born in midwinter, bleak or not. And our knowledge of geography makes us understand that in any case, there wasn't snow on snow on snow where Jesus was. But that's okay. That is okay. Because this carol isn't really about Jesus. It's really about us. Jesus may or may not have ever experienced the iron hard ground and the stony nature of a frozen lake, but we have over and over again. The bleak midwinter is a part of our lives that brings with it many challenges. There is an absence in winter, an absence of time, of patience, of stability and connectedness. Literally every step in the winter carries risks that we don't worry about at other times. Now, in the sense of midwinter being a condition, a state of the heart, of course, Jesus probably did understand. There's plenty in the Lenten story to indicate that he did. Just as people from every climate and every religion resonate with that idea of coldness, of emptiness, and of loneliness. We struggle with this absence in whatever season it arrives. And it is a problem that we human beings try to grasp no matter what our faith, no matter what our perspective. One of the challenges we face in this human quest for a meaningful life is to find substance and sustenance in the face of adversity. And in a way, the bleak midwinter teaches us an important lesson. That lesson is humility. That lesson is humility. Now, when I say this, I don't mean the sort of belittling of the self that passes for humility in a highly individualistic society such as ours. I don't mean bowing and scraping, tearing ourselves down to build someone else up, nor do I mean the appearance of modesty that is considered tasteful among those who feel that they are a great success. By humility, I mean the ability to see our actual place in the scheme of things. This is the humility that Thomas Merton, the Trappist monk, was pointing toward when he wrote that the value of our activity depends almost entirely on the humility to accept ourselves as we are. The value of our activity depends almost entirely on the humility to accept ourselves as we are. The reason why we do things so badly, he tells us, is that we are not content to do what we can. Now, during our rather epic snowfall, we have struggled with humility more than anything else. We have all been trying to greater and lesser degrees to do more than what we can. We attempt to move about as if the streets aren't filled with ice and the sidewalks filled with snow. We have seen it as a virtue to appear in control in a situation where we are clearly not. And when it is clear that things are not as we would like them, we get frustrated and angry. We blame the plow drivers or the town government or the school superintendents as if they brought the storm that made us cancel school, lose our parking places, and walk to work in the middle of the street. We want to have things the way we like them, don't we? We want to be warm. We want to feel powerful, and we are failing. The humility of midwinter, though, comes with its own strength. It comes with its own path toward abundance. But in order to gain this strength, we need to get over ourselves and work to fit into the whole of creation. On an individual level, this means being able to notice the value in simple things, even if at first they do not appear to have value or beauty. This kind of humility is what enables the poet Kate Barnes, who you would have heard today were you in church, the poet Kate Barnes, to glimpse eternity in a rock, a simple fieldstone broken by a horse's hoof. When it was opened, she writes, a black wall appeared, rusty at the edges, flecked with pale checks, like unknown constellations. At the same time, this practice of seeing the power and beauty in the small and insignificant enables us to understand and celebrate our own smallness in the context of the vastness of creation. Merton's friend, the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh, spent a lifetime illustrating the interconnection of all things. If you ask a cloud, he wrote, if you ask a cloud, how old are you? You can listen deeply and you may hear a reply. You can imagine the cloud being born. Before being born, it was the water on the ocean's surface, or it was in the river. And then it became a vapor. The wind is there too, he says. The cloud does not come from nothing. There has only been a change in form. It is not a birth. It is not a birth of something out of nothing. In all of our struggles, all of our aches and pains from slipping and falling, from shoveling and salting, we are reminded that like the cloud, We were something before we were born in our current forms. And we will be something. We will be something after those forms are gone. To the mystic, we are part of this snow. We are part of the universe, in its particulars as much as its universals. This understanding will go a long way to being an aid and comfort to us. It may help us to see the many gifts that lie hidden in the snow, or in other times of hardship and difficulty. Our story from Mark, which you would have heard today, it's one of the loaves and fishes stories, this one from chapter 6. And our story from Mark tells us about a group of 5,000 people, sheep without a shepherd, the Bible tells us. People experiencing a winter of the heart, unable to trust, unable to join together as a group. Each one individually scrambling and essentially alone. Whatever they use to feed their souls has failed them, and they are hungry. Perhaps all Jesus does with those loaves and fishes, those 5 loaves and those 2 fish, is to show them that even in the midst of apparent scarcity, there is richness, there is depth. To find this richness in the wintry moments, to find the abundance in the wilderness. We need, Jesus tells us, to begin with what we have in the wondrous cycle of creation. A cycle filled with surprises and miracles, even in the bleak midwinter, even in the darkest moments. So hi, by this point you know that church has been canceled. The snow posse is coming in a little while to shovel the walk, and Lee brought her camera. So we thought, okay. No, probably not. Like that. Okay. If you were here today, now, if you were here today, if you were here today, we would take a moment in silence to think on these things. So if you feel like doing that, you certainly can. Amen.